Hello, I am Mike Hendricks from SMB Golf, and today my guest is the founder and CEO of Sagacity Golf, Brett Darrow, and this is the Tech Caddy Podcast. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have you in. I'm excited for the conversation because I don't get the sense that you do a lot of these, and the introduction is really too short for you. I mean, you also are the founder of GolfNow, but certainly under a different name when you guys started. And I thought it would be really interesting for a lot of the young entrepreneurs in golf to hear from you, as well as some of the more established companies in golf that maybe think they know about the beginning of GolfNow, but maybe they'll learn a couple things today. Sure. I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So just to kind of level set with everybody, you live in Oregon, I believe.
I do, yes.
Just getting through a massive tsunami, all joking aside. So you're in Oregon. You founded the GolfNow company. Cypress Golf is really the initial, I think, name, but you'll tell us. You founded that out of Oregon, but there was Phoenix and Arizona had to play a critical role. Were you living in Arizona at some point in the beginning?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and then technology background was always here in the Pacific Northwest, Portland and Seattle. And then I moved to Scottsdale in '98. And then started Cypress, as everybody knows it now. It's Cypress in 2001 in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I lived there for about 16 years, and then moved back to Portland about 8 years ago.
Okay, so I'm curious to know, was there something you did of an entrepreneurial nature, or maybe even of a corporate nature, before Cypress Golf? Try to understand how you decided to do this thing. And you said 2001.
You're going way back now.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually don't know this story. This is, I got into golf from buying a golf travel package provider in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I was doing that. So my entry into golf was a company called Desert Golf Promotions. We were doing, golf vacation packages into the Phoenix marketplace. And I would hang up talking to a customer like yourself from Ohio that wanted to come down with a group of guys, and you'd say, okay, I want to play, Greyhawk and True North and whatever else. And then I'd hang up and I'd call Troon and I'd call Greyhawk, and they'd say, oh, I don't have any tee times available. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is insane. Why am I not able to see the tee sheet or see the availability at the golf course? And so this is back in '98. And so I had this grand idea during the kind of the .com boom. Let's give away a tee sheet and a browser, kind of like Netscape. Literally, let's give the tee sheet away. And we raised a bunch of capital, went hard and heavy. It's called greens.com. We had about 1,500 golf courses under contract to roll out this entire application. And then as the .com and the financial markets crashed, so did we, right? And so it was a tough, licking your wounds coming out of that. But it was, you knew where this was going. We knew that, at least I felt online tee times was going to be successful. And it was about somehow we have to digitize this tee time inventory. And once we digitize the inventory, then there would be online bookings. And so that's literally was into online tee times was Greens originally. And then coming out of that, it was Cypress Golf Solutions.
And so I used to give a presentation about the internet because I was, of course, one of these people that really took your product and tried to introduce it to thousands and thousands of golf courses ultimately, right? That was my role at GolfNow. And I would talk about a relevant internet, and that Google started to get traction in '96. And so that you were really about 2 years after that, where you were trying to say, like, okay, well, now let's have some applications that are useful beyond just search. Let's have some internet-based applications that people can actually use.
Absolutely. I mean, we literally were building at that time in '98 with Greens. We built the first, what I would call browser-based tee sheet application. It was literally a browser-based tee sheet application, which was unheard of at the time, right? And what we ran into, from an infrastructure standpoint was just bandwidth even, right? Bandwidth was a massive problem going to these golf courses back in 98, 99, early 2000.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So you never really worked in a golf shop. You were the reservation person, which meant you had your own unique perspective on it. And you were
100%.
completely trying to solve a problem. Makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
So greens.com, and people don't know, but there is a famous story about greens.com and a PGA show, right? Where you guys were gonna book a tee time from the moon, or tell me briefly about that.
Well, again, it was the .com days, right? So it was crazy. And so there was a lot of money flowing around, and we had in Vegas, we had a big Jake's Jam, which was the Eagles played, and at the Hard Rock Cafe, it was pretty crazy times at that point, right? But again, when you come out of that, you look at it and you're like, okay, it's the execution and the model at that time was let's go for broke. Everybody was trying to get market share. And so it was all about market share. And so it was just go for broke. And as long as the capital markets were there, you're going to be fine, right? But once the capital markets dried up, then you're really, we extended way too far. It was too difficult to kind of come back from that. But coming out of it, and I get a little, people hear my name as the founder of GolfNow or Cypress or whatnot. But, there's some other people behind the scenes that really are instrumental in regards to making Cypress successful. Frank Halpin was the co-founder with me at Cypress. And it was really me coming to him and saying, hey, Frank, I've got an idea, right? To me, this is now 2001. And 2001 was, email marketing was starting to become a pretty big thing, right? And so I just felt like living in Phoenix, 6.5 million people live there, tons of golf courses. They go to the local market when it's summer and hot, right? Because the rates are low and the customer plays there at that time. But then in the peak season, the local customer doesn't play as much. And so to me, it was like, how can we build an application that kind of allows the golf course to take a subset of inventory and push it out to an email club to the local market, right? And not bastardize their kind of travel rate in essence, right? And so I went to Frank and I said, hey, I think we can build an application that will sit right over the top. We don't have to integrate to anything, and we can just kind of take blocked inventory and 2-3 days out, the golf course can load up some blocked inventory, push it out to their email club and book tee times to the local market. And he's like, okay, I'll build you like a prototype. You go sell some courses and make sure we can, this is a viable application, right? I'm like, okay. So he builds a prototype and we go out and go to actually Don Ray at Eagle Mountain was one of our first clients, right? And we went to them and he's like, this is great. This is awesome. I said, okay, let's have your database and load it up into here so we can send out some emails. And he's like, okay, but our database is like maybe 100 people, if that, it's like nothing. I've got nothing, right? And so we're like, okay, well, let's load it up. And so we loaded it up and we, sold tee times and it was like, this is going to work. And then as we started to expand out and go to the market, it was like, they're like, this is a great idea. I love the concept, but I do not have an email database. I have no customers in my, this is back in 2001. So we knew there was an opportunity there. We knew tee times were being sold and they liked the fact that this was kind of a closed channel to the local market. And so that's really when we went to actually a local radio station and said, okay, we're just going to go build a brand in essence and drive the customers to that brand to sign up for the email club and then receive these emails from the golf courses. And that was the beginning of, what we call GolfNow today. Originally it was called, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, originally it was called, the sports radio station in town was 910 AM, extra 910. And so we went with them and we went and did a partnership. And so it was called Golf 910. And that's what we started with. And then pretty soon, within about 2-3 weeks into it, I was just getting, 3 a.m. remnant ad space. And I was like, this is ridiculous. You're out. I'm just going to buy the advertising from you. Right. And so I'm like, what can I call it now? I can't call it 910. So I just changed it to Golf 10. It was just golf10.com. And it was just to keep it short and simple, meant nothing. Right. It was just about, something, at that time to keep it short. And, Mike Lost a lot, who's a good friend of ours and is well known with GolfNow and his presence there, kept hearing the ads and we reached out. He reached out to me and he said, hey, I really want to do this in the Bay Area. Can I go take it to the Bay Area, take your technology and go do it to the Bay Area? And I said, sure, absolutely. And he's like, well, what am I going to call it up there? And I'm like, I have no idea. And so he comes up with this golf in the area code. And so he called it Golf 707 up there. And I thought that was a great idea. I loved the golf and the local aspect of it and the area code. And so we bought up every golf area code in the domain in the country. And so we switched Golf 10 at that point to Golf 602. And we ran that with Golf 602. And then again, we branched out pretty quickly. We ended up getting to about 40 markets across the country and about 1,500 golf courses. So
let's talk about the 40 markets, because I think this is starting to, we're getting to where I start to become involved, not with you, but I start to interact with the GolfNow brand. Some of these markets, I think you did in a licensing agreement, right? I mean, you kind of did different things to make sure that the company would scale.
Yeah, 100%. So early on, Mike was one of the first licensees. Another co-founder of ours now, Andy Seitz, was another licensee in Austin, Texas. And then we sold about 5 other licenses across the country. And that was terrific at the beginning because it quickly got you out to scale with limited, you didn't have to have the capital to go, hire the people and do all of the different things that you needed to do to grow a market, right? And it was great because those people were entrepreneurs, right? And so the entrepreneur spirit lived inside of them, in that local marketplace, and it was fantastic. So it was a win-win for everybody. We ended up eventually, raising capital and buying back a decent amount of the licensees before we sold. And then in 2005, when we were now kind of scaled out kind of across the country in almost 40 markets at that point, we had golf and the area code in all these different markets, right? It was kind of crazy. And so at that point we were like, hey, we really need to consolidate this under one brand. And we were, just like every entrepreneur does, you go out there and try and, do a name search and try and find a domain that's good and all these different things. And we came across GolfNow, and it was for sale for $6,000, and we snatched it up for $6,000, and it was probably one of the best things we ever did.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you ever get a chance to meet the person that owned it, or was it
No, it was completely just anonymous. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so as you all were doing that, Last Minute Golfer was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I don't know if Mike Last, who was the founder of Last Minute Golfer, for everyone that doesn't know, I don't know if he was watching you or if it was just coincidental that he was thinking in a similar way. But the way he scaled the business was he found guys like me, to your point, guys that are entrepreneurial. I was in Central Ohio, and he said, gee, I think you could cover Pittsburgh, all of Ohio, part of Indiana or something like that. And those deals, he was just cutting us in on top line revenue, which was kind of amazing. We didn't even have any expenses, so the cut in was substantial.
Yeah.
But come to find out, that was also because I think he knew you guys were being acquired, and he wanted to get his course count up as much as he could because that was just going to raise his ticket to get acquired. He figured he'd go, let's say Comcast / Golf Channel would buy Last Minute Golfer after they bought you guys.
Yeah.
And so talk about how Comcast Golf Channel, about how they even found you.
Yeah, so this is probably in 2007. We'd been approached by, golf.com and Golf Magazine, and which was Time Inc., right? At the time. And we've been approached by them and started having conversations originally just as a partnership, to really kind of look at trying to, scale out more on the brand side, and just get more eyeballs. And then as they kind of started to uncover what we were doing, they just really liked the business. And they were like, instead of let's do a partnership, but actually we'd like to acquire you. And so then we went through a process with them. And I remember taking it back to our board and said, okay, we've got a solid offer. And they're like, this is great, but let's go, validate it in the marketplace in essence. Right. So let's hire a banker and let's see, what's really this thing's worth. And so at that point we hired a boutique banker out of Boston and called Boston Meridian. And then they kind of went around and kind of shopped it around a little bit to see what the valuation was. And I remember the first conversation that I had with Shannon O'Neill at the Golf Channel, who was EVP at the time of digitals for Golf Channel. Great guy. And I remember the conversation very, very vividly. It was, this is great. Love the business, but we're Comcast and we move real slow. So, I'm not sure, I'm like, okay, no big deal. And so we just hung up and I'm like, okay, that they're out, right? That's not somebody that's going to be interested, And then we're having a board meeting in December of '07, and we get a phone call from the banker that says, hey, the Comcast guys want to talk to you. And this morning before the board meeting, I'm like, okay. So they give us a call, and Frank and I are on the call, and they said, hey, we're going to put together a very aggressive offer. We want the business. We like what you guys are doing. We think we would go great with the Golf Channel. And this is actually super funny now when you think about it, because they go, okay, we're going to fax over the offer. Which I think is just hilarious. I think I still have it, right?
Of course.
Exactly. And so, they told us the number, and we hung up, and we were high-fiving, and it was great. And so the board was like, so, but the caveat was you have 24 hours to sign this term sheet, right? And so it was like, okay, well, I know, I mean, we've been talking with, Time Inc. for quite some time. And I'm like, I got to give them an opportunity. And so I picked up the phone and called them and said, hey, we're going to do this if you guys aren't willing to step up to the plate, but you got 24 hours. It's like, I can't. I think I can get you a better number maybe, but I can't do it in 24 hours. So I'm like, you've had this thing for 6 months. Sorry, man. We're going forward with Comcast. So it was a great fun time.
Well, I'll just share with everybody the other side of that, the Comcast perspective on that. So I won't even bring in names because I'll get a couple of them wrong. But short story is Golf Channel is doing incredibly well because of Tiger Woods. Someone at Comcast says, well, what happens to this business when he retires? And everybody kind of looks around and they have no idea what the answer is. Yeah. And so the message was, hey, Golf Channel needs to diversify. You need to find new revenue streams because this cat is not going to be here forever, right? And we've got to figure this thing out. And so for people that don't know, at one point, Golf Channel actually thought the business was going to be around an amateur tour. And they did make an amateur tour acquisition, but they quickly learned that, no, this is not going to move the needle. But the GolfNow purchase certainly moved the needle. That business became essentially equivalent to the Golf Channel business and really set things just in motion like that nobody could believe. So
100%.
That was the flip side of that. So I one of the questions I was most excited to ask you about and talk about is after you make the sale, and by the way, that did not include every affiliate because then I became involved with I played a role in purchasing the Illinois, Michigan affiliate, had to get deep into that due diligence. And I learned a lot in going through that process. So not every affiliate was included in that sale, but regardless, as you stepped back and you mentioned Mike Loust a lot, he came in with the acquisition, he joined the Golf Channel. As you stepped back and watched the company evolve and manage and make different decisions and whatnot, I'm curious to know what you thought. Were there days that it hurt? Were there days that you were just so excited, you couldn't stand it? Give us a perspective of what that was like to then leave the business.
Yeah. So I knew once we sold, Frank and I were only going to stay around for a little while. I mean, that's just not in our nature. I think we're really entrepreneur and spirit, and we love to build products and applications. And so I think we knew that was going to be a short-lived, scenario. But I'll never forget one of the first meetings that we had is once they had acquired us, and I think they might have acquired you guys as well at this point. Not sure if it had closed yet, but it was, why aren't we putting the trade inventory, the hot deals inventory, right, on the website? And I'm like, well, that's not, we've just always had it in the closed channel in the email club only, right? So the only way that you could get access to the trade inventory and the hot deals was through the email channel, right? And so we never so 100% of the traffic that went to GolfNow was the benefit of the golf course, right? And so it was 100% their tee time inventory, and there was no side-by-side comparison of that hot deal. And so they're like, well, we think we need to put that hot deal on the website. It's like, I understand why you guys want to do that, but I don't know if that's great for the golf course, right? And then the next question was, why are we sharing the email customer, right, with the golf course? That's our customer. It's come through the GolfNow brand. It's our customer, and it's like, Well, we've always done that, right? Number one, because the original application was built as a email database system for the golf course, right? Cypress
It
Golf
actually
Stations.
originated with the golf course database.
100%, right? The whole application was, we built GolfNow just as a brand to attract and grow the database for the golf course. And so we'd always done it that way. And we also, it's the right thing to do, because I mean, it doesn't matter if you use ZocDoc to go make a doctor reservation, but you made the reservation and you're talking to your doctor. This doctor obviously gets the information of you as the patient, right? I mean, to me, it's not any different, right? When you go make a dinner reservation or whatever, I mean, it just, like, you're there, you are the customer, and you're dealing with that individual golf course or restaurant or doctor or whatever it is. And so to me, it's kind of a, it's easy thing to hide behind, in essence, to say, oh, we're not going to share that information because of whatever laws that are in place. But it's like, that customer is playing the golf course, right? I mean, it is the golf course's customer without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
And so we just always shared it and thought it was the right thing to do. And so those are the two big things that just, changed the business entirely and changed the perception of GolfNow, and GolfNow being bad, in essence, I think, in a way. But everybody needed to play ball because it was Golf Channel and GolfNow had all the eyeballs. And so they kind of felt forced to. And I think they still feel that way to some degree today.
So I certainly remember going through the process of moving the trade to the website. That was a massive decision. Lots of people were nervous. What's going to happen? So yeah, that I remember that like it was yesterday. I also remember when we started to add services, we started to add more marketing value. Like, certainly we did grow the company. And so that was exciting. And I thought we provided a lot of value to golf course operators. But talk about what you think the impression of GolfNow was in the Cypress days related to barter pricing, pre-Golf Channel and post-Golf Channel.
Barter was always at the beginning, right? We basically kind of figured out quickly that, it's hard to get dollars out, as a technology provider, to get dollars out of a golf course, right? They just don't have the discretionary and, the revenue to really spend on CapEx on technology that much, right? And so, barter was always an option for us right out of the gates. And really what we said was, listen, give us your shittiest tee time of the day, right? Give us 152, right? That's right before twilight that you never sell, right? And we'll take that one, and it's in a private channel. And so, to us, it was literally, it didn't really cost you anything, because it was this tee time that pretty much never sold, right? And so there's always that kind of gap between where twilight changes, on price. And so, that was when you look at the two, right, as a trade option for the services and application that we were providing, I think it was a really good value, right? To the golf course.
The other difference, because this even existed early days when I was there, but the other difference was that tee time actually could also not float around, right? In that, like, no, look, the agreement 100%. Is 152.
What are you doing booking 140? That's like, you can't do that, right?
And what happens if I sell a big outing that includes 152? Well, GolfNow just lost on that deal. I mean, it was just part of the cost of doing business, right? And but then we went through, I don't even know if you know this, but we got into this whole thing where we started paying. Today, they'd be called like a BDR, a business development representative or something like that. We called them a CSA, a course sales associate. We were paying CSAs to call golf course operators and say, hey, there's been 10 days of rain this month. Would you mind if I posted those 10 days on the good days coming up? And it was, some of us would sit around and say, man, you got to have a lot of balls to do that, to make that phone call. But there were so many operators that were just appreciative that someone would call them and have a conversation. You learned a lot about relationship building that you could, quote unquote, get away with it. But I don't think that was happening in the Cypress days.
No, that would be to me, it was like the operator would be like, I had the same 10 days, right? Exactly right. You had one tee time, right? I had 200. I mean, come on. What are you talking about? Yeah, what are you talking about?
The other thing that you all did differently that we ultimately changed is, I think you really worked without contracts.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
The philosophy there was always just, if you don't want to work with me, I'm not going to hold you to it, right? I mean, that's just terrible business. And so
Yeah.
we were just saying, hey, cancel anytime. Right?
Yeah. I was with, so full disclosure, I'm in Hilton Head right now. I'm not in Columbus. And I had a meeting yesterday with a multi-course owner here in Hilton Head. And we got into this discussion about the length of contracts in today's world. And I was simply counseling him, and everyone in Ohio knows I counsel everybody I can. I just don't think you need to sign anything longer than a year. Everybody might ask for something longer than a year, but I don't know that you really need to sign it. I mean, I think that can be one of your negotiating points where you say, look, I think I like your product. I think we're going to like working with you, but I just don't want to put my name down for longer than 12 months.
Yeah, 100%. And I hate the apps, the whole renewal piece, right? You get 30 days, it's like, it's just an auto renew. It's like, and then the golf operator, I mean, they've got so much going on, right? I mean, at the end of the day, are they really going to be paying attention to that contract expiring? And then all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, I'm stuck in it another year. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Right. Okay. So enough of the old days. But let's talk about you. I'm just going to assume you had some kind of a no compete with Comcast that expires at some point. The next, but correct me here, but I think the next thing you roll out is called Quick 18. But tell me if I'm right or wrong on that.
Correct. Yep. No, you're correct.
And at launch, give us just a quick synopsis of what Quick 18 was.
Yeah. Quick 18 was 100% direct-to-consumer booking tools, right? Is the application that we originally built, which was mobile at the time, was becoming really big. No one was really doing mobile well, right? And we just thought that again, if you can get the customer to just book directly, I mean, that was one thing that we knew at GolfNow. The customer really is loyal to, if you play at a local market and, take Portland, Oregon as an example, you play that one golf course 70-80% of the time. You might sprinkle your other rounds maybe a couple times a year around to other courses, but you have one local course that you play on a regular basis. And so for us, it was like, let's provide the best booking tools possible for the consumer to go direct to that golf course and let them have that experience, right? So mobile, a booking engine, again, the email tool application we built, a whole application there. So it was really around giving because to me, what happened was when Comcast acquired GolfNow, it was all about the GolfNow brand, right? And so the B2B tools, yes, they maybe had them, but it wasn't in their best interest to build the best direct-to-consumer tools.
That's exactly right.
Not in their best interest.
Right.
The better the tools that they make for the consumer to go direct, the worse it is for them, right? That's right. And so we thought that there was a big opportunity there. And at that time, this is like 2012 or 2012, they hadn't started the kind of buying spree of buying up, Harry Ipema and Four Reservations and everybody else, right? Yeah. And so, we got interfaces to all the old guys that we had known, and we'd actually helped write most of those APIs to, with IBS and Four Reservations and Crescent Systems and, all of the old players that were out there, right? Easy links, exactly. So we had written to all those applications and we're just, going and we quickly got a lot of success. And it was, I mean, we probably sold 250 golf courses within the first 12 to 18 months. I mean, it was going very quickly. And then I'll never forget when we got a phone call from, I can't remember if I got a phone call from Harry or if I got a phone call from somebody at GolfNow who just said, we just acquired Four Reservations and we're going to cut off your interface. It's like, oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And so for people that don't know, Harry Ipema, who founded and owned Four Reservations out of Chicago, he had really become our biggest nemesis. I mean, we certainly were dealing with Andrew Wood and we were dealing with JJ Keegan, but Harry was difficult for us. And everyone in the golf world was kind of shocked when they woke up one day and realized, oh, Harry just sold the business to the guy he hates the most. Yeah. That's what happened. And what we had done at GolfNow, just for people that are interested in strategy, we had gone out and locked up like 9-year interface agreements before we announced that acquisition, because we wanted to know that we were going to be able to work with Club Profit for another 9 years. We wanted to be able to work with Crescent or IBS, to your point, for another 9 years while the dust settled and everybody really learned that they were going to fight us. And so I think that was brilliant that they locked up those interfaces. They made the purchase of 4 reservations, and then the whole company changed really at that point.
Yeah.
And so how does Quick 18 evolve? So you learn of that situation, but like, how did the company evolve over the next several years?
Yeah. I mean, so then we, were forced in essence to get into the T-sheet business, right? Because it was just kind of like the writing's on the wall. They're going to roll up a bunch of these guys, right? And we're going to need to get into the T-sheet business so that we can protect that side of the equation. So we thought, okay, we've got the best direct to consumer tools. We've got the best. And now we had built, the other thing that we had done early on in Quick 18 was it was very apparent to us too, as we were talking to all these golf courses, that the direct to consumer tools were in desperate need, right, of better tools, which we were providing, but the flexibility again on the pricing side and really kind of yield management, dynamic pricing, those kinds of things were really just rudimentary in nature, I would say, right? And so we'd started building a lot of flexibility in regards to pricing and yield and all those kinds of things into the application. And so once we had built that side of it, because it started on pricing and direct to consumer tools, it was pretty easy to then slap in a T-sheet application, because then you're just talking about intervals and different things like shotgun starts and stuff like that. But the whole pricing application was already taken care of, which was usually is the most complicated thing, right? And so, I won't even get into point of sale. I've never gotten into the point of sale business. I don't plan to get into the point of sale business. We just always wanted to stay focused on the T-sheet side of the equation. And so we built, Quick 18 built its own T-sheet. And so, it definitely hurt us from a scaling out standpoint, without a doubt. But it, as we evolved, we got good partnerships with IBS and Anthony Strange at that point with our T-sheet into their point of sale system. And then there are new players coming in, right? From, 4UP and Lightspeed and all those kinds of players now, right?
Exactly. And you do have, you're one, maybe nobody else has this. You have 2 integrations today with your T-sheet, Clover, which is kind of like one of these standard SMB point of sale things, just like a Square is or something like that. And then more recently, you did an integration with Toast. And I don't know if there's another T-sheet that has 2 kind of non-golf integrations like that. But you're, to your point, you don't want to be in the POS game. You just want to interface to lots of POSs, I would think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, we still have, to the golf centric ones. I mean, we have Lightspeed and integrations into Lightspeed. We have integrations into the Easy Suite point of sale, which is the old IBS platform. I think there's a couple of 4UP. We actually have one too. Exactly. Yeah.
And you actually have an integration to Club Caddy as well. I mean, that's one of the reasons that and we'll get into this, how the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association has now partnered with part of what you guys are doing at Sagacity. But one of the big reasons we picked you guys is because you just have so many daggone integrations. It just makes it easier when you sit in this world of like looking over 600 golf courses. You start to value a company that has many, many, many integrations. It makes it so much easier. So
100%.
So Quick 18, I don't know if you would say, maybe you could just explain it. You morph into Sagacity Golf, or like explain how you go from Quick 18 to Sagacity Golf.
Yeah. So again, going back to Mike Lostalot, Andy Seitz. Andy was at Arcus Golf, working on doing running their revenue management for them, and then Mike was doing benchmarking, right, and all the data set side of the equation. And he'd come to us. I can't remember the dates exactly when he came to us, but he was like, "Hey, will you guys build? I'm doing all of this work on the consulting side of the business, really diving into all of this data, but I need somebody to build me a tech stack to kind of house all, a complete data warehouse, and then organize all of this data into something that actually is actionable for the golf course." And so we took on that project. And so by doing that, as being the technology stack, we took an ownership position into Orca at that time, right? And so we were working closely with Mike, and then Andy started using Mike's data, because it's very difficult when you're trying to do true revenue management and yield management at a golf course. it's really hard to get the data that you need out of these systems, do true, yield management, right? And really dynamic pricing. And Andy couldn't get it out of his systems, right, at Arcus. And again, particularly at a management or an ownership level, you've got different systems kind of across the board, right? You're not standardized across every single golf course, particularly as they acquire new ones and different things and what happens, right? So he had come to Mike and said, hey, you guys are sitting on this gold mine of data right now in regards to true revenue management and forecasting. And he's like, I need access to that, right, to be able to do it right. And so then at that point, we just said, I think we actually are better coming all together under one roof, right? We're kind of working together, closely, but not actually as one company. And what Quick 18 had was this transaction platform and all the integrations, right? And it had the technology, division to actually build all the applications, right? And then Mike had the data set and the expertise in regards to really scrubbing the data and organizing it and putting it back in a format that actually could be consumed. And then Andy actually had the actual algorithm in regards to a forecasting, plan for a golf course. And so in 2019, we said, let's just bring all three of these entities together and form Sagacity.
Yeah. And so Andy Seitz, for probably like one of the guys in golf that very few people have known, although say, was at Arcus. If you ever get a chance to speak to Andy, he's got amazing ideas about distressed inventory. At one point, he pitched us a business at GolfNow that was a really cool idea, but super smart guy. And I think Mike Lasselot is also super smart. And Mike just has like tremendous relationships, amazing work ethic. He's like a real mentor to me. He taught me so much about GolfNow and about just tee times in general. So all of a sudden you have this amazing team, that's kind of back together. And Frank is still involved.
Frank is involved. And then Dwayne Craw, too, is our CTO. And Dwayne was with us early on. Frank is a very good engineer, super good entrepreneur, but quickly realized this thing was scaling. Early days of GolfNow, realized it's scaling to a point from an engineering standpoint that he couldn't do. And so we had brought on Dwayne Craw. Dwayne Craw actually goes back a long time with my family in regards to technology and worked for my dad. And so we brought Dwayne in early into GolfNow. And then he's been with me since, with Quick 18 and Sagacity now as well.
What'd your dad do, Brett?
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur, but built really, it was a IT consulting, building, custom applications for Fortune 500 companies. Company called Claremont Technology Group that went public back in 96. And then another one called Emerald Solutions in the early 2000s.
So speaking of applications, it's a good way to segue into yards. You're just now kind of really re-entering, if you let me say, the marketplace world again, right? Under this brand of yards. We'll talk about our partnership here in a second, but tell us about when you decided or when yards made sense to you, and explain for people at home what's so different about yards versus just about any other golfer app you're going to find out there.
Yeah. So again, going back to Quick 18, where we were building direct-to-consumer tools for the golf course, primarily around mobile apps, right? And so we've been in that business for quite some time. And we felt like we always had a super quick, easy way to just, couple like 3 taps and you booked a tee time, right? But as we were doing it, we were realizing it, and then we kind of, I wouldn't say pivoted, but we pivoted to really working on Sagacity and the yield and the forecasting and pricing and all those analytics side of the business, but always had these direct-to-consumer tools. And I think one product that we haven't talked about, which I want to talk just quickly about, then I'll get into yards, but is our Daily Deals, right? And Daily Deals is a technology application that has come out of Sagacity that every golf course in the country should have on, right? Because it is what we call smart deals, right? So from the B2B side, call it smart deals. From the consumer side, call it Daily Deals. But really what it is because of how Sagacity works from the pricing side, we take 3 years of historical data, and then we benchmark that on every hour of every day, right? So we know next Thursday at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock, right now today, how many rounds the golf course should have on its books, right? And then from there, we have a booking curve window that goes all the way to, expiration of the tee time, right? And so the system is constantly gauging where they sit to that historical booking curve window. And it's heavily weighted. And this is where Andy's, brain comes into it, and Dwayne's brain comes into it, and way past me, right? But just philosophically, it makes so much sense. And if we just go back to what a lot of golf courses still do today, but used to do a lot of, which is I look at my white space on my tee sheet and I see all this white space and there's no bookings in there. They hit the panic button and they go, let's send out an email blast to our entire database, right? That we have discounts from 11 to 2 o'clock on Thursday, right? Or 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock on Thursday next week. In reality, they're actually maybe right on pace, or maybe just the 10 o'clock hour was behind pace, but 11 and noon and 1 actually don't start picking up until 2 days out anyway, right? There was no need to panic in essence, right?
Right.
And so this daily deals widget that sits on the golf course's website or in the apps is an intelligent platform that says, you don't need to panic. We know exactly where you're sitting right now, and there's no need to do anything. But it'll tell you if you are behind pace, right? It'll say, hey, you know what? Yes, that 10 o'clock on Thursday next week is behind pace right now. And it's behind pace by 5 rounds. You actually probably should do something about that. And so you have parameters in there that allows the golf course to say, when I'm 2 rounds behind pace or 1 round behind pace, throw up a tee time with X percentage off on the daily deals. Once that gets booked and that gets them back to pace, though, that goes away, right?
Just to interject there, going back to your mention of Orca and Laust a lot, that's why that 3-year historical is so important, to do this the right way, to do it the right way.
100%, right? 100%. And that goes the other direction too, when you're really looking to push price higher, right? I'm just right now talking about when you're behind pace, right? But there's a whole application on the other side, which is pushing the price higher when your demand is skyrocketing, right? Because Phoenix Open is in week, whatever's happening, there's some event or weather, whatever it might be, right? But again, going back to that kind of daily deal side of the equation and the smart deals, it's the fact that we know all of that historical data, and we know the booking curve window and the algorithm that we've built. It doesn't matter. And that's the great thing about it, is it doesn't matter where the booking comes from. If the booking comes from GolfNow, if it comes from over the phone, if it comes from the golf course's own website, wherever the distribution is, it doesn't matter, because we're looking at the entire application and knowing exactly where the courses are sitting. And so to me, it's important to understand that side of the equation. And then the next piece is what we did, right, is what we called yards, right? And so yards is really about engagement, because now that we have really solved the problem in regards to pricing tee time inventory at Sagacity on the upside and on the downside, right? Now it's about, let's make sure we get as many eyeballs as we possibly can on those tee times, because we all know the more eyeballs we can get on those tee times, the more demand that's going to be there, and it's going to push price demand higher. It's going to make more money for our golf course operators and owners, right? And so that's literally all we think about at Sagacity all the time, is how can we make the golf course owner more money, right? Number one. And so to me, yards kind of morphed into this. We've got this customer that's downloaded the golf course's app, and they maybe open it once a week to book their weekly tee time, right? That's kind of all they're really doing with it, And so it was like, I wonder what we could do to kind of stimulate them to open it every single day, right? And so we introduced this engagement platform called Yards. And Yards to me is just, it's a great brand. Everybody wants more yards. You want more yards on your drive, all those kinds of things, right? And so it's just about how can you get more yards and more engagement, right, to then do different things with the golf course. And so
yeah, because I think you just said it, but I just kind of want to double down on it, because this has been my pushback on apps for golf courses. I don't know how much engagement there really is with them. It's kind of this thing that sits on your phone, 100%. But I don't know, how often do you really open it up? And so what I thought a big unlock is that you guys came up with was, you thought of this idea of, what if I could let you come to it every day, and I actually could regulate that you have a 24-hour period, and then it resets to go earn yards, doing different things. playing games. And I just found that to be quite novel, at least in golf. I'm sure it's happening with other SMB apps or something like that. But in golf, I had not seen that yet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got my attention. So go on.
Yeah. So we basically, introduced this concept of just daily claim of yards, right? Claim your 300-yard drive in essence. So you get 300 yards every day if you open the app and you claim those yards, right? And so that was the beginning of this kind of what we would call an engagement platform. And then inside of that, the golf course then has a yard store, and the course controls the redemption value of those different stores, and they can do it on they can do coupons on happy hour if they wanted to, or drinks, or range balls, or tee times, or whatever. And there's all kinds of flexibility in there that they can manage to how the customer redeems the yards, right? And so what we saw was all of a sudden we moved this customer from opening the app once a week to book his tee time to opening it every day to claim their 300-yard drive, right? And so we're like, okay, wow, we're really kind of onto something here, right? This is actually really cool to see this customer go back to the course's brand every day and open this thing up. And then we started, okay, well, what else can we come up with? And so we came up with some stupid idea, which was just spin the wheel, right? And there's 8 tiles on the wheel, and
there's only 12 booths at the PGA show that have spin the wheel, so you might as well.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's just like it's not like this novel idea in any way, shape, or form, right? But it was just like, hey, let's again put it around yards. And so we introduced this spin the wheel, and we said, okay, let's make them, they can spin the wheel one time, and then they have to wait an hour, right, and come back and spin it again. And we ultimately said you could only do it like 4 times a day, right? And so all of a sudden we're like, we move this customer from once a week to once a day to 4 times a day. And we're like, holy shit, this is crazy, right? This is like, these guys are so into this, and it was really cool to just watch this evolution of the customer really get into the games of yards and the engagement of yards. And then we actually then built an entire giveaway platform. So it's a whole platform that we've built all around redeeming, again, just more ways to redeem yards and not leverage it all on the golf course, right? In regards to having them provide discounts on different things or whatever, right? But it's all around this concept of engagement. It's all around this, the other thing that we've really found in this whole process as we've done this is the golf, there's just this micro community at each individual golf course, right? And there's so much that's going on there that the customer doesn't really know about, right? But they want to be a little bit more connected into it. And we think this is one way to connect into it. And I think as the golf courses start to realize how much that customer is interacting with their app on a daily basis, right? Or in the yards ecosystem or marketplace regular basis, and how they can be in front of that customer. I mean, we talk about it all the time. They post to Instagram or they post to Facebook and the golf courses and doing different things. And they might have, 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers or whatever they might have. But that doesn't mean they make a post that 2,000 customers are going to see that post, right? The algorithm that is in place for Instagram has nothing to do with that golf course, right? And it's not in the best interest of that golf course, right? It's in the best interest of how do I get, Mike Hendricks to stay engaged in Instagram feed, and let's serve him up other things, right? And so for us, it's about this feed application, this yards application. It's about keeping the golf course in front of that customer all the time.
And so then why a yards app, kind of an Uber yards app, if you will, that kind of sits above that? Talk to us about that. And for those people that don't know, this is where the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association has partnered with you guys because golfers can buy a membership to yards, and you all are sharing that revenue with our association. We're giving golf courses an opportunity to earn dollars whenever someone signs up for a subscription, et cetera, et cetera. But talk about why that over the top apps.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we think that there isn't, GolfNow, we started 20 plus years ago, right? And from a consumer standpoint, it hasn't really changed that much, right? I mean, you go to GolfNow and book tee times. Yeah, they have Golf Pass and they've got other things that are there, right? But how does the golf course communicate to that golfer about what's going on at that golf course, through that application? It's truly kind of more of, it's a transaction platform that is book my tee times, move on, book my tee times, move on kind of thing, right? And so we think that there's a need for the marketplace that provides the golf course an expansion beyond just their individual app, right? Because like I said, there's going to be that 70% of the customer that's totally loyal to them and is their loyal customer that plays them on a regular basis. But there's another 30%, and then there's all these other people moving into town or whatever that's going on, right? The marketplace makes sense, right? And so we think that but what's great is that it's all interconnected. And so if the golf course makes posts, it goes out to the network, different things that happen. And so we just think it's about expansion. To me, the best thing about what we've been able to do, though, is provide a new marketplace, right, with yards without any expense to the golf course, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's zero expense. There's a brand new marketplace that you can do. So you've got your own store in there. You can do promotions in there. You can do your tee times in there. You can do daily deals in there. You can do everything that you want, right? You've got posts and you've got customers, and it's this whole attraction of building up your customer database, sharing that customer in the database, and then building this marketplace that they can go out and promote to the customer all for free.
Right. And, I just like Google. So a lot of people don't know this, but on your Google business profile, you can post, right? You can do posts on your Google. And Google has made it such that you can then share that to your Facebook page or share that to your Instagram page. One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about yards yet is there's a whole feed that the golf course can post to. It's good to post to your own Facebook page, but it's just your followers that are going to see that. Wouldn't you want to post to a larger community of golfers? These are golfers. They're not non-golfers on there. And put your stuff there. I think what you're going to start to find is, it's what we found at GolfNow too. There will always be some great marketing people at these golf courses, and they're going to dial in on that. And they're going to go, that's my new thing.
Exactly.
I'm going to own that in my market, post there religiously. We're going to build a community, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's what we're going to see happen.
Agree 100%.
Yeah. So I've been trying to ask everybody about AI. And so I want to include you in that. You really have this kind of growing large golf technology and marketing company now. Clearly AI must play some kind of role in there, but I'm curious to know, what are you thinking about AI? What's the future look like as it relates to Sagacity Golf and AI?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Frank Halpin is kind of heading that up for us and really diving into that piece. We think, that whole side of the business is going to change. It's relating it to bookings, right? I mean, that is what we know more than anything is on the booking side, but it's going to change for even on the yard side of the equation in regards to just consumers, right? You're going to know much more about your customer and the deepness of the relationship because AI is going to help you. It's not easy today to sift out all that information about a customer, right? Whereas AI plays a huge role in that, going forward, I think. So I think marketing automation is going to be a big part of it. I think booking is going to be, and automation is going to be a big part of that. I think, there's early AI agent stuff that's out there that we're looking at hard that I think is going to be successful or will for a little while. I mean, this stuff is moving so dynamically and so rapidly that I think in 5 years, we have no idea what it's going to do. But I think at the end of the day, what it's going to do is it's going to make everybody's life easier.
And hopefully it makes ROI easier, frankly, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Let's talk in a little more detail about the partnership with the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association. So for people that don't know, when I started to work with the association, and I took on kind of this responsibility of growth. I wanted to grow the association. I wanted to bring in more sponsors. I wanted to bring in more members. I actually sent out an RFP to just kind of do some tire knocking on, would anybody be interested in building a marketplace with us? Because, Brett, my perspective way back when was, I was surprised that golf course owners as a group didn't try to do something similar to what we were doing at GolfNow. It made sense to me that a golf course owner group would do that, but it kind of never really happened. And so I've always had that in the back of my head. And I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to actually help the Ohio Association to grow and to strengthen, why don't I go back to what I was thinking about 15 years ago? And so I put together this RFP, and I thank a ton of different companies for coming to me. I'm not going to name people, but lots of big boy companies came to us and said, we'll do this with you. But your proposal obviously stood out. I thought Yards was super unique. I keep going back to, like the golfer engagement play, it's different than the discount play. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
One angle is discount, one angle is engagement, what have you. I like this engagement angle. But why did you all want to work with us? What do you see as the upside for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny if we go back from our earlier conversation about how we scaled at GolfNow, right? We scaled through licensees, right? And got the brand out there pretty quickly and got to golf courses quickly through local entrepreneurs in a marketplace, building it out in that, Ohio market or wherever that market was, right? And so I looked at it as very similar to that, right, in regards to yards. But I didn't want, in essence, I didn't want you guys to go build your own brand and marketplace, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be Ohio, right? And you're not going to get all of the benefits of a nationwide, in essence, brand, right? An ecosystem that the mass community can all participate in, right? And when you go back to the licensee model, those licensees made out very, very successfully, right? Because they had the license, they had it in a marketplace, it couldn't be taken away from them, right? And so we were able to build from a contract standpoint safety for Ohio, right? But if any owners association today, if they had the opportunity, to go back and buy the rights to GolfNow, right?
Right.
Back in 2004, 2005, it would have been the best decision they had ever made for themselves, right?
I agree.
And that's exactly the idea behind yards here for the state of Ohio, in my mind, right? And that's why it makes a ton of sense.
Think about the different things we talked about too, how GolfNow evolved, like trade move from email to on the site, phone calls from the CSA of make good trade, all those different things. Think about if the owners would have had a real say in that.
Yeah.
Right. It would have really been 100%. So much better. Yeah.
Exactly. And so for us, it's like, hey, we've got the technology stack and we've got a brand that's engaging with these customers every single day and hundreds of times a day. I mean, they're playing the wheel, they're spinning, they're doing Yahtzee, they're doing all these different things on it all the time. So we've got this ecosystem. Now it's about how do we go expand it out? And I think what you're doing there in Ohio, and I think what you guys can accomplish there together under that brand as a national brand, I think will be fantastic.
Yeah. And again, I know I mentioned it once before, but the fact that you have so many interfaces, right? That makes it so much easier for someone sitting in my seat to say, that's where we want to go, because we want every golf course in Ohio
100%
to be a part of the association, to feel like they can participate in this thing. And so that's important. And then I will say, we know we have many golf courses in Ohio that don't even have a tee sheet today, but I also knew that you guys would be able to check that box if need be. And so that was one of the reasons I felt really comfortable with the decision. And frankly, the board, the board, look, one of the comments from the board member was, well, if yards is going to happen, you know, we might as well get involved with it. Right. And I just thought that was such an obvious common sense kind of way to look at it.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
So we're looking forward to it. If anybody wants more details, I'm happy to follow up with me. I'm happy to talk about it. Listen, I am in Hilton Head. I did want to mention some of the customers you guys have, because again, I think one of the hidden gems in Sagacity Golf is actually the tee sheet you have. I just don't think a ton of people know about the fact that you guys, have a tee sheet. But for people that don't know, Harbortown Golf Links is running their golf course on this tee sheet. Of course, Don Ray at Augusta Ranch is running his golf course on this tee sheet. It spans a wide range. Don't you have Greyhawk too, or something like that in Arizona?
They do. Yeah.
So a wide range of golf courses use the tee sheet. I think that's the glue. I've always felt the tee sheet was the most important, piece of technology the golf course can use. But then again, you've got all those interfaces as well too. So it's exciting. Can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's fun. Reminiscing back, going back 20 plus years. You dated me.
Well, sorry to do that. But listen, I always tell people, even for Last Minute Golfer, and for those people that don't know, our acquisition was lower than Brett's acquisition. But a successful exit is a successful exit, and it should always be celebrated, is the way I look at that. So I'm sure you're happy with how that went. It set a course for your life. I'm sure that's been, amazing. And now you get to be right back in a builder's seat and try to go do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time.
All right, Brett, take it easy. Have a great rest of your week. And we're looking forward to working with you in Ohio.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right.
Talk
See
soon.
you.